Hi, welcome. Today we're going to be talking about children's book illustration and the process that I use when creating finished illustrations for book projects that I'm working on with publishers. Today we're going to kind of be focusing on my latest project. This is Diego, the giant Galapagos turtle from Mims House Publishing in Arkansas. So this first part of this process that we're going to talk about is the initial steps where Darcy Pattison, who is at Mims House Publishing, contacts me and she sends me the manuscript. And the manuscript is this basic Word document, but the important part is that each page is broken down with the text that's going to appear on that page. And so that's a really good starting point for me because it's going to tell me what I need to visually have in that illustration at the bare minimum for this finished product. Once I have that manuscript broken out and ready to go, I start working on the actual illustrations. And this is a creative process that I use. I work on thumbnail size. If you go to inkygirl.com, you can download these cool little templates, and they actually have your basic picture book spread layout. With that, then I can start just doing tiny little quick, fast sketches, and I will do tons of these to try and work out placement, balance. I'm going to be moving the camera around, zooming in, zooming out. Point of view is going to change, adding stuff, taking stuff out, trying to get really clever and different so that everything is not just straight on in the illustration. You want to kind of make it interesting. Sometimes, like maybe this will be best if it's from the dog's point of view, or maybe the sun up high in the sky. You kind of just want to play around with things as much as possible. So I might generate just tons and tons of those, trying to come up with the final idea. Once I have something that I like to work with, I'll work a little bit bigger. And again, this is also from inkygirl.com. It's just really nice to have some pre-prepared blank slates to begin sketching and working on. After that process kind of gets going and I've kind of decided this is what's working well for me, this looks good, I like this best, this is going to be fun to illustrate and draw, that's another important part of this whole process, then I work up into half sizes. And half sizes now, I'm doing problem solving. I've got to make sure I have space for where the text is. I got to have a nice balance going on. Of course, you need to make sure that the illustration is supporting the text, and that the illustration would stand alone as well, so that if the text isn't there, it's still going to be interesting for the person looking at the book. Once that is done, then I send those half-size sketches off to the publisher. And there's a little bit of back and forth. So maybe some minor changes. Maybe there's something really important that they want in that image that I had missed, or just a little, nod of the head to something like put a little flower on this guy's lapel, or maybe it's not working at all for them and I might have to go back and redo one or two of them. But once those finally all get approved and checked off, then I go ahead and move into the full size. And then I'm working at a full size level for the illustration. And this is the part where I have to stop then and do a little bit of work gathering references. And luckily, I have been lucky enough to have a photographer in the family in the past, and so it's very easy to find reference for a lot of things, but you always end up with something you don't quite have a reference for. And there's different avenues that I can take to go and track those down. Sometimes, very frequently, when it's dealing with people and certain poses that I need, I actually end up asking friends to do some quick photo shoots with me, which can be very fun in itself. But once that is all done, and I have the worked up, and I have my reference for my tennis shoes all worked out, I go ahead and transfer the paper onto my watercolor board. And I'll go into more detail later about what I do with and how I handle watercolors, but it's going down a rabbit hole. So we're just going to stay basic right now. Once the watercolor is done and I have that basic layout, some shadows, some highlights, just hitting the first couple layers of watercolor to build it up, then I go ahead and scan it into the computer. And then I begin to work digitally. And one of the reasons I work digitally is because it is so much easier than having to start all over again when you mess up. And oftentimes with watercolors, sometimes it could be forgiving, but sometimes it's not at all. So it's very, very handy to be able to work digitally and on layers. And here's kind of an example that I'll show you about how I'm working on layers.